I know.
Yeah.
Okay, it is 6 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order with Pledge of Allegiance. Flag is right there in the center of the table.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Meeting is open at 6 p.m. And we've got an agenda in front of us, with the exception of item number 12, which we don't necessarily believe is necessary. Does anybody have any other corrections or additions or subtractions? If not, I need a motion to approve with the exception of item number 12.
So you want 12, if we're going to just interview to the end then, personnel?
Correct, we won't have 12, it'll be moved to,
I'll make a motion to delete item number 12 from the agenda. And we are going to go into executive session, SDCL 125-2, 1 personnel at the end of the meeting. Okay.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda with the subtraction of item number 12 and that personnel item being moved to item number 16 right before adjournment. Is there any discussion? Not? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Paige, if you would like to take a few moments and
Okay. Welcome to the library. If you haven't been here before, my name is Paige German. I'm the Public Library Director. Our library serves, of course, the community and our junior and high school students. So it's been a good collaboration with the school and it continues to work well. There's been a lot going on. You guys haven't been here for a couple of years, so here we go. All right. So this last summer we had our Oceans of Possibility summer reading program. And we had 47 kids registered, and 29 of them were probably active participants. That was up from the previous year. The year before we had 28 registered and 16 active, so almost doubled. So that was good. I received a grant, a $600 grant from the Alcester Community Foundation for raffle prizes for the reading program. And I also got a $1,000 grant from the Stephanie Miller Davis Foundation to purchase more junior fiction books. And I was able to get those purchased on the shelves before summer reading started, and the circulation for junior fiction has gone up 56% since doing that, so
wow.
that was good. We also used the Read Squared app for the first time during the summer reading program, and it went really well.
Squared?
Yep, it's a free app through the state that they provide, and the kids were able to track their minutes on the app with the help of their parents if they were too young, but it went really well. Pretty much, I think, we only had like 2 or 3 who did paper logs. Everyone else was on the app, so it was worked really well that way. We also hired 3 performers. We had 2 magicians and a puppeteer comedian. 2 were paid for by the Friends donations, and 1 was paid for out of my summer reading budget. We also had summer story time with 15 kids signed up, and about 6 or 7 kids came each time. That age group's a little more unpredictable. But that was an increase from last year too, so that was good. We had also, for the first time ever, we had a teen and adult summer reading program with summer reading scratch tickets. We had 49 books were checked out by teens. I don't know if that's up or not. I'll know next year if it increases. And we had 217 books checked out by adults. So, and everyone seemed to really enjoy it. And we had our scratch ticket prizes were just like little bookmarks, and we had a few chamber bucks, and then the grand prizes were 2 $50 Amazon gift cards that they won. So that went pretty well. We also purchased a Swank movie license this year, because we did July summer movies. We got a grant from Alliance Keep the Change for a projector and a screen for $1,000. So we were able to show movies in July, and we had 30 people attend those. And then I'm having every early out, since there's an early out at the end of every month now, we're having movies for early out days. And last month we had 17 kids come, so that was good. And we've had 2 book discussions already this year, and we have one more planned for in November. And we usually have about 12 or 13, usually adults, come to those. I have some like circulation statistics from last year. I'll be doing this year's in a couple months, but last year we had about 9,776 people come into the library. We had about 3,629 books circulate and 3,889 physical items circulate, which means books, DVDs, audio. And then we had 1,159 ebooks circulate through our South Dakota Titles to Go. That's free through the state, where people can sign up on the Libby app to listen to audiobooks or ebooks through the state. And 470 of those, or 470 were audiobooks, so 1,159 ebooks, 470 audiobooks through the state. So that's pretty good. So people are using that service. We also have done a lot of interlibrary loans. Our patrons borrowed 21 books last year, and we lent out 55 books. So our books are not only circulating in our community, they're also circulating throughout the state. And we had 6 that went out of state even. So, another new thing, I've added bilingual books to our children's section, because we've had an increase in Hispanic families in the community, and so I've seen more of a need for that. We already have some in our teen reads section, but I thought, I saw a need for it in the children's as well. I am obviously a new librarian. I've only been here a little over, well, it'll be 2 years in November. So I'm attending Library Institute through the state to become a certified public librarian. The first year, last year I learned about research and using the library databases. This year we learned about teen programming. Next year I'll learn about children's programming. And then my last year we'll learn about library policy and library board. Some new things at the library. We have a new library website that launched last spring, 2021. It has definitely helped people navigate the library, I think. I can track the activity on it, and people definitely use it. We've increased our Facebook presence. We replaced 2 of our AWE Kids learning computers, which are these 2 units right here. They are now touchscreen, so the old ones were not. And the kids do like using those. They have educational games on them. The school was able to purchase these tables and chairs last year through the CARES Act money, so that was nice to have more functional tables and chairs to move around for things like this. And also be there for classrooms if they need them. We also purchased new board games this year with donation money that are over there, because we have more kids in here after school, especially on Wednesdays when they have their Win Wednesdays. A lot of high schoolers have to wait for practice to start. And then some upcoming programs. We have Fall Story Time is starting October 8th, and it's going to run through November 12th, and it's going to be Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. And that's designed for the 0 to 5-year-old crowd, but older kids are welcome. We have a Harry Potter themed reading challenge going on right now from September through December. At the moment, anybody can participate, but a lot of the people participating are teens at the moment. Our Scholastic Book Fair will be here next week, the 26th through the 30th, so we can all come back and buy books if you want. Proceeds also help to buy books for the school. We have the after-school program coming in here every other week to do Legos, board games. Some of them do read books. They use the Wii just to be in the library and use the stuff we have, something a little different. And we also have kids from the after-school program coming in once a week to do crochet club, where they learn to crochet. So those are some of the things we have going on right now. Do you guys have any questions about the library?
Do you take donations of old used books that, I mean, I think I've probably got, I don't know how many boxes of books. They're
We
old.
do, as long as they're in good shape. Like if we don't like, it seems like if things are kind of torn up or kind of yellowed and crunchy, people don't want to check them out. So as long as they're in decent shape, we do take donations. Yep.
Paige, did you handle the grant writing to get all that funding?
Yes.
It helped you out? Congratulations.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is really fantastic.
Yeah,
Good for you and for us.
I actually did go to school for that.
You did.
I have a nonprofit administration degree, so
That is fantastic.
so it kind of helps a little
As
bit.
well as getting the license for the music
Yes.
theater. Really nice work.
Yes.
Any other questions about the library?
When's the book fair?
Next week,
Next week, okay.
Monday through Friday at noon.
Okay.
Yep. I think Monday is like a week from tonight is the big,
That's Grandparents' Day.
Grandparents' Day is Wednesday, Monday is like family night. So they have extra prizes and things if you come in.
I thought Grandparents' Day was the same as Patriots' Day, 9/11.
It's
This is just for the book
Grandparents'
fair.
Day for the book fair.
They come in and have lunch
Not
with the
Grandparents'
kids.
Day,
and
but
then-
Grandparents' Day, I
Yeah,
see.
buy books. Well, that's all I have, unless you have anything else.
Nice job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great job.
Thank you, Paige. I know that, Joy, you're scheduled for the next slot. However, I think you will take more than 3 minutes to
I will,
discuss
sir.
with.
I will. I was trying to short form it in my brain.
Well,
but-
and I would rather move 5 to 6 and 6 to
Completely
5.
flexible, for sure.
Oh, here, sign up sheet for the public hearing. We don't really have much choice on the 6:15 time slot for the public hearing, so I'd rather give you an opportunity to provide us with your full presentation, so. We'll sit here and hum for another minute and a half or so. Yeah. There's a lot going on in this library. It's good to see. 9,000 some odd people. That's-
So we're,
Yeah, it seemed like it, yeah. Well, these windows,
you are actually on the floor next and.
these windows do a lot for it.
Okay. Yes. So, Mr. Mayor, this is Harley Ferguson from CTOS.
Okay, if we just wait just a few more moments, we should be at 6:15.
No worries.
I just want to make it official,
Yeah.
so. Said 6:14 about 3 minutes ago, I thought. Hey, 6:15. Harley.
Okay, hi. My name is Harley Ferguson. I work for the Southeastern Council of Governments. And Alcester is wanting to apply for Community Development Block Grant, which is CDBG. It's a grant through the Governor's Office of Economic Development. So the City of Alcester is submitting an application for funding to help finance its wastewater treatment facility improvements project. The total cost of the project is approximately $4.4 million, 80,000. The City of Alcester is submitting the application to GOED, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, for grant funding through the CDBG program. The requested funding will not exceed $770,000. These funds are provided as a grant, and there is no required payback for the funds. Also with the CDBG program, they work to ensure decent, affordable housing, to provide services to the most vulnerable in our communities, to create jobs through expansion and retention of businesses. So CDBG is an important tool for helping local governments tackle serious challenges facing their communities. The City of Alcester meets one of the criteria for eligibility in that 51.25% of its residents have been determined low to moderate income by the U.S. Department of Housing, Urban Development, and the U.S. Census Bureau. So that means that you're eligible for the Community Access Grant. So the Community Development Block Grant funding also requires that the opportunity for citizens and communities to engage and participate in planning and implementation of CDBG funded activities in their community. So we know that the wastewater treatment is a priority to the city and its residents. However, CDBG program encourages to identify other priorities to your community. So this is like your moment to let us know what you feel is important to your community. And I think Alcester applied for this grant funding 2 years ago, I want to say.
Just a year
2020?
ago.
Just a year ago.
Yep.
And so the community development and housing assessment that I sent to you, it just had, for community development housing, your 3 points that you had picked was design lots and blocks to assess cost-effective and community value. So that was on your comprehensive plan. So I don't know if that's still on your comprehensive plan.
It still is.
Okay. Discourage scattered residential, commercial, and industrial development. I don't know if that was still on there. So, and then number 3 was to invest in the purchase of governor's homes to give home ownership to low, moderate income families. So if that was still on your
They are.
comprehensive.
Yep.
Okay. Other community development and housing needs. So enhance the character and identity and historical preservation of the community. Number 5 was to participate in the pre-disaster mitigation plan to identify possible activities to mitigation and the loss of life and property in the event of a disaster. Number 6, to improve park and recreation opportunities for citizens through funding opportunities through game fishing parks. And was that still on your comprehensive plan as well? Okay. Maintain the appearance of Alcester's neighborhoods, streets, and commercial districts. And that was still in there too?
Yes.
Okay, so I just did, because these were like from the previous one, so I didn't know if anything had changed or if you wanted to add something or change anything. I can add that to this.
Nothing has changed. We're just moving forward a little bit more on our housing side.
Okay.
But otherwise, all of our goals and objectives are still the same.
Okay. And then planned and potential activities to address housing and community needs. So I had 4 points on here that are kind of new that I added, but you can tell me if I need to edit those. So to apply for a community block grant to fund this wastewater system improvements, apply for eligible funding opportunities through South Dakota Housing Development Authority, conduct a housing study and analysis to determine housing needs, which we had done.
Yes.
So I haven't heard anything on housing study. and
He
whether
came
they've
to
done
see
it.
me last week.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So that is, the ball just got rolling on that
nice.
one.
Yep, so whenever he finishes that, he'll have another meeting and he'll go over all of the findings and stuff.
Okay.
And the suggestions on housing needs and everything. And then the last one was to work to complete the Alcester collection system project, the one that was just funded in January.
Yes.
So, and I think this is for public comment if anybody wanted to suggest anything else too, so.
Okay.
Is this also something that we looked at for the school? The historic building that we have over there, that could be restored. I see so many restorations going on right now in downtowns and old cities, and they're taking those old buildings and turning them into some things that are really beautiful, which can be very appealing to a lot of people. And I'm not just talking low income, I'm talking medium, I mean, if you looked at investors that way and met it halfway, I think that you could have a real opportunity to make that, as you say, keep the character and history of the city. I think it's a big one.
Yeah, and I think if that's a part of your
I don't know if
comprehensive
you guys
plan.
have ixnayed thought of that, but it's truly a beloved building in your city.
I think the school has been
Ixnay.
discussing a number of options. I don't know what kind of options they are, but they've been discussing a number of options, so
Other than the bulldozer.
I think so. I don't
Okay.
know.
Just wondering. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So at this time, Harley, really, we've got, this is the public hearing of the entire project and financing. There are two separate spots here. One comments in favor of the project, one comments not in favor of the project, and we'll get to those, but technically speaking, you've rolled the entire project together with housing and the wastewater treatment facility upgrade.
Yeah, that part of it is just a requirement as far as the application goes. So I'm just required to kind of discuss these with you and what the points, were and what you plan to do for further community housing development.
Well, and I know we've got a number of people that are here that might want to speak, but I guess when I think of in favor of the project is that there are multiple projects here that we're discussing. One has to do with housing, one has to do with our wastewater treatment. So I don't want to limit anybody on any of that input. I think everybody should be given the time to discuss either one of those, so. I guess if you're finished with your presentation, does anybody have any questions for her right now from the council? If not, I'm going to open it up to comments in favor of the project from the floor.
I wish I could play a little 5-minute video for you guys right now, because you're all on the same vibe that I was on, especially with the development and with the housing. And Cash just took me down your new street and how wonderful it is, and the growth here and the school and the library. I'm an outsider, so I just picked this town. I love this town, and I've loved it from the start. But there's a 5-minute video, and it's about an agri-hood. Have you ever heard of such a thing? Anyone?
I have.
Can I play this short video that I saw in 2013? And it's 5.5 minutes. And it kind of, if you're looking at development, I wish you would take a look at this before you totally.
Wanna watch
You
it?
guys are sure on it.
Fine.
You're on
Fine
it.
with me if you want to.
If I can just play it, it's just part of my presentation that I really think is.
So this basically talks about,
It's a
for
little
all practical
piece.
purposes, development.
Correct, sir.
Not necessarily the water treatment portion.
Correct. This would be, and I think you need water development. That's, that's a great one, but bear with me while I get through this commercial. Okay.
Suburban street might lead to heaven on earth.
I don't know if you guys can see it.
Probably 80%
Sorry.
of the food that we eat comes from within a 5-mile radius of town.
These peppers,
These peppers, yeah.
they come from
That comes from 50 feet away.
Clay Johnson and Rosalind Lemieux moved their family here from Washington, D.C. 2 years ago. Their 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom home sits 40 minutes south of downtown Atlanta. They bought here for the close-knit neighborhood and this organic farm right beyond their backyard.
We had a friend from New York City come down here and ask us if it was decorative. And he would say, like, did they put those hay bales out there for, is that an art installation?
Green Acres is the place to be. But this isn't Green Acres. Oliver and Lisa Douglas were city folk trying their hand at farming. Johnson and Lemieux are technology consultants living in a development called Serenbe. More than 200 homes and growing. The big draw here is not swim, tennis, or golf, but a real working farm.
To be clear, we're not roughing it. Like, that farm is cared for by professional farmers. We buy the food. We are lucky to be so close to it, to be able to benefit, but we're not having to go out there and, hoe the farm.
People love the idea of sitting on their back porch and watching the farmers grow the food.
Steve Nygren is Serenbe's developer. Where'd you get the idea of putting a farm, a working farm, in the center?
Well, I grew up on a farm. My family is generational farmers from Colorado.
Nygren had opened and owned more than 30 restaurants when he bought 60 acres of farmland in 1994. And gradually, that family farm became Serenbe. He was nervous about urban sprawl and decided to develop a community his way. Today, Serenbe has 1,000 acres. Its clusters of homes are surrounded by walking trails and horse stables. But at the center of it all, 25 acres set aside for agriculture.
The first 20 lots that I priced were sold in 48 hours. And the next group were sold in about 6 weeks. So I realized that there was actually the market demand for what we were talking about.
As an approach, Serenbe grew from the same farm-to-table movement that has changed restaurant menus and brought farmers markets to more and more neighborhoods. This community planted itself at the forefront of the latest development trend, the agri-hood.
It's really about using farms and agriculture as an amenity.
Ed McMahon is a researcher at the Urban Land Institute in Washington, D.C.
When I first started following this, you could count the number of developments like this on both hands. Today, there are literally hundreds of them, and I hear about a new one virtually every week. Putting a farm in the middle of development is relatively low cost, and it's something that seems to resonate with lots of people. So I think we're going to see a lot more of these kind of projects going forward.
Agri-hoods are popping up like peppers coast to coast. The Cannery near Sacramento has a 7.5-acre farm. Prairie Crossing outside Chicago is anchored by a 100-acre farm. And just outside Washington, D.C., you'll find Willisford, with its 300 acres set aside for fruits and vegetables, chickens, and goats. But agri-hoods are often luxury living. The average home at Serenbe costs about $700,000, 5 times more than other homes in the area. Serenbe recently broke ground on 200 new homes, and when complete, is expected to have 1,200 residents.
People that are moving here, they want to be near the farm. They want to overlook it.
29-year-old Ashley Rogers is Serenbe's farm manager.
I know most of the folks in the community, and they can come up to me one day and say, oh man, I made that sweet potato last night. And that warms my heart more than like anything.
Rogers grew up in suburban Detroit. She feels a special connection here. Her hands in the soil, her heart in the community.
I love what I do.
girls that lives right there all the time. And just hearing him say, hey, Ashley, you know, like knowing that he cares about what I'm doing and I can affect him and he can come after school and pick radishes with us, you know, and his parents can say, oh, thank you, like, you make such an impact on him. Like, where else can I do that?
How important is the farm to this community?
Oh, I think it's vital. It's the centerpiece of the community. You know, we'll spend 2 to 3 hours at the farmer's market on Saturday. Not just buying vegetables, I mean, that takes 15 minutes, but checking in with neighbors, seeing how everybody's doing. If you replace that farm with a golf course, right, like, we wouldn't live here.
Can this model be duplicated, replicated in other places?
Gosh, I would hope so. I really would hope so. Because the subdivisions, you know, that I grew up in, I hope that that's synonyms of an era. And we can have this community, not a subdivision.
That's the same video, I think, that we talked about before, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
It was, because it gets me every time. I didn't cry this time when she did. I didn't cry this time when she did, but that's a large scale. But there are 28 states currently that have agri-hoods. The closest ones to us are Minnesota and Iowa, Wisconsin. They have a big niche right up in that area, so it's not, you know, we're too cold or we're not far enough south or anything like that. But it just sort of fit in. If you're looking for grants and you're looking for stuff, there might be some resources. I don't know. But that was just a little piece buried in my presentation.
Well,
Okay.
and I think that's a good point. There are multiple ways of doing this development of affordable housing. Now, a $700,000 house is not what I would consider affordable housing. However, wherever they are, if that also includes food.
Or available fresh food, because right now 73% of Americans want to know where their food comes from. And we have a plethora of resources around us of the, you know, the top quality that, and I know there's greenhouse expansion that's going on. They have a big one in Clay, as well as some community closer to us. I know that Andrews are working, they expanded their greenhouse. They're growing greens almost year round. I mean, you go buy a bag of spinach at the total stop, how much is it gonna cost you? You know, as spinach reseeds itself and regrows, and it regrows again in the fall. And mine stayed alive on my porch all winter long. So there's just some things to look at that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and I think that is a viable possibility. I mean, we really live in an agri-hood throughout the whole state. We watch farming going on all around us, not necessarily radishes, not necessarily beets and things like that, but
Things to
we
directly
still
eat.
see farming. And so,
It's an opportunity to look at it, and again, that high scale where they're talking those hundreds of thousands, but later on, and I'll talk a little more, your position right now as Alcester is smack dab in the middle of the two largest growing areas right now, with Sioux Falls moving so far south. You know, it's gonna be subdivisions. If you look at a 5-year plan, how soon are those people gonna be, you know, pretty close to you? At least close enough to go to the country, to go get your food, and go to the heart of the historical farming, if you will. I just see a real opportunity for this community to be that hub, because you lose it. When you hit Elk Point, there's not even FFA anymore. You're not in farmland anymore. You're not, you know, they don't see the things that we see, and they don't know the things that we know, and you can see people are craving it.
well, and that's in favor of one of the two projects. That would be, you know, housing development, et cetera, just development overall. I don't know whether anybody is here that would like to speak in favor of the wastewater treatment plant revisions. If anybody would like to, that's fine. If you,
What's wrong, what's our capacity that we got for the wastewater treatment plant you got now? How many people can it hold up to for the town of Alcester? I mean, you guys talking that you're gonna, I don't see Alcester growing hundreds of thousands of people here
Right.
at any time soon. So what is the capacity that our wastewater treatment plant will hold right now?
we're not necessarily building it bigger. we're rebuilding it because it's outdated and it's
Okay,
about ready to fail.
what exactly is wrong with it right now?
It's 22 years old.
Okay.
It runs 24/7.
Okay,
And
are the injection pumps for the chemicals bad? Are the solids coming off of it, or are we having problems pulling the solids off of it, or what?
the problem we're running into is we use chlorine
Uh-huh.
to treat, and chlorine is really corrosive. And so one of the buildings on the facility or on the grounds is in dire need of being updated due to the chlorine rusting all of the pipes. We also have a situation where we only have one holding tank. We do have the overflow tank, which is the tank up on the hill, but if maintenance or anything like that needs to be done, we don't have that ability to do it, just because we don't have a way of stopping or redirecting the
flow of the product.
inflow coming in, or
Okay.
inflow coming in. So that is a little bit of a,
So
of a
what
situation.
would you change chemical wise now if you updated your
We would go to
wastewater?
UV,
You would what?
go to UV,
Go to UV?
Ultraviolet.
which
Okay.
means then we would get away from chemical, which ultimately would save the city a lot of money because chemical prices have gotten
Yep.
quite expensive over the
Everything
years.
is anymore.
And it would help us, because we would just have we would have panels of UV lights that would go down into the fluids and sanitize them.
So have you done research to see how long those UV lights last and what the cost is to get those replaced if they go out?
It will be cheaper than the chemical expense we spend now.
Okay.
The engineers provided a lot of documentation about that specifically. But as far as comments in favor of the project, I can tell you that if any of those components, any one of many that are out, they've outlived their usefulness. If any one of those components fail, we're all gonna suffer.
Yeah, I
So-
understand.
so
I've been in
as
the
far-
wastewater treatment plant for a long time. I mean, we got our own wastewater treatment plants we do at the dairies and stuff. We
Sure,
pull our own
sure.
waste off, we inject our chemicals in, get our pH levels correct, and then send it on down to the Big Sioux River. I mean, you always have EPA checking up on you, all that kind of stuff to make sure your pH levels are correct all
And
the
you know
time.
what would happen if any portion of that failed? A lot of times redundancy is built into, especially a municipality, because if a failure occurs, you need to have a backup.
Yep,
Some items, we don't have any backups either, and that's scary. And so, it's not really building it bigger, it's just rebuilding it.
upgrading,
and
upgrading it to the new technology
yep.
part of it, okay?
So that it'll last another 20 to, 22 years. This one lasted 22 years and we've used harsh chemicals. Maybe we can get 30 out of it, I don't know.
The other problem we're running into is the computer system that runs the sewer plant is 22 years old, and when components fail, we have a hard time getting components that are compatible with the system we have. And the other thing is the electronics are at the lowest point of the plant, which does not make sense if it floods. So part of the redesign is to move the electronic portion of it up to where that garage is on the north section of the property. And so that way, it's not going to be exposed to flooding, because we have flooded our sewer house. There's been a couple of times we've had torrential rains, not the typical rains you get on a regular basis, but might be a 5, 6, 7, 8-inch rain at one time, and then that's too much for the plant to handle. And then those components have been underwater, which that doesn't work either.
Some of the issues also are that some of that water is coming from people's sump pumps. And so we do have to be aware of the fact that even though it's not correct, that's happening, so we have to be prepared for that. When somebody does get, 3-inch rain, 2 days later, 3-inch rain, 2 days later, another 2-inch rain, there's gonna be a lot of water coming into that. And now, that doesn't happen very often, and boy, we wish that it could have happened maybe a month ago, but when it does happen, again, the real issue is if we see a failure, we're gonna wish we had done something.
I would offer a comment in favor of the wastewater aspect of the question. Many years ago, what we had is a mechanical system. Didn't involve ponds or anything like that. Ponds are not, in my opinion, not a good thing. So there was a lot of discussion about the mechanical system. They put a mechanical system in, we're working with that. And the UV seems to be solving the problem, but we need to be taking care of the west side of our city because the sewer lines and stuff are in tough shape, if even existing. So we can't put streets in because we don't have the mechanical part of it fixed. We also, and when you start putting that in, if you've driven around town, you know that we have some ups and downs. Some of these places, you need a lift station. A lift station, I'm thinking back when I did the research on it, is around $200,000, and it needs to be hooked up to electricity. So you're pumping water to get the movement of the water down. Again, if you're updating the mechanical system, you can make provisions for that. Not completely, but for those governor's houses that are coming in, wherever they're placed on the north end of town or they're placed on the south end of town, you're going to need a lift station. You got to pump the water up to it, or you got to pump the water down for it. And like I said, 2 or 3 lift stations, you've managed to spend $1.5 million or whatever dollars, and it's just going to get more expensive as time goes on. The other thing that's happened in this town, the historical things. We lost the auditorium. A lot of folks got together to build that auditorium, and it was sold privately. And we built a building back to the north. The school has wonderful brick. I'd seen an article that dealt with demoing a building and saving all the brick and the interior wood. I've done a remodel on a house. It's expensive, guys, if you can even get the materials. When you spend $30 for a 2x4 plank or a 2x6 plank, that's getting expensive. The school, I don't know if they have the time to take something like that. There's companies that take it down. They take it brick by brick, and they sell the brick off. I mean, reconstruct. I've been in the school. I've subbed in that part of the school. It's got some troubles.
No,
It's
that's
got
the real issue,
it's got troubles.
That's why I answered that question as delicately as I could. The school itself is considering multiple things, but in the long run, it's got to be fiscally responsible.
But our biggest thing is getting the wastewater situated so it's viable for all parts of town, and get the streets instead of grandma's crazy quilt streets. We need to get those streets. We got to get pipes in them. We've got to get not the terracotta pipes. Good Lord, we've got to get it going, and we can start building. That's one of the reasons why some time ago, that we did go governor houses. We were just taking down the shacks and stuff and replacing them with governor houses and improving it. But the problem was the plumbing. The plumbability and the water access. So we've got to do that. Otherwise, the west side of our town's going to be destroyed. It's going to be gone, and people won't move into a town like that. Pete and I moved into Alcester. We moved a business here.
Okay.
And we were made feel.
We got to stop.
But what I'm
because now
saying
we're
is,
getting into other things.
yes,
here.
I know. But what I'm
We
saying
need to
is,
discuss the
I
projects.
don't necessarily agree with some of the add-ons. We need to get the wastewater taken care
That's
of.
not part of this discussion, I'm sorry, but are there any other discussions that anybody would like to put forth that are in favor of the project, whether it be housing development or the wastewater development? If not, the second comment says comments not in favor of the project. Are there any comments not in favor of the project? Either one.
And I will, again, I'm not in favor of like the housing because we've allowed codes and covenants to be switched around and somebody purchases or builds a $500,000 house and then the next person goes around and they put up a shack or a shed house. That doesn't do well for the neighborhood. So I'm not in favor of that unless we stick to the codes and covenants that we originally had.
Any other comments not in favor of either project? If not, the council would need to make a motion that will have to do with those phase one improvements and the financing, specifically for the wastewater treatment plant, but of course you heard her list off a number of different items of interest, so.
So the motion would also be for approval to for the mayor to sign the application for the CDBG funding.
Community Development Block Grant,
Yes.
CDBG. From the GOED.
I got one more question here. So, the wastewater treatment plant project is gonna be $4.4 million, is what the engineers have come up with a plan. Could be more,
That's what they're,
but you never know what's gonna happen. It could be more, could be less. It doesn't. You got a grant that you're going to approve for, that you could get approved for $770,000, right?
right.
So there's a total of $3.6 million still that needs to get addressed here.
We were also approved for a funding package that has loan forgiveness on it, and that was 2.6.
So that was 2.6.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a $1 million project that the city needs to come up with some money here or more.
In essence, now, it was about 800,000. This started a year ago, and we were given 70% loan forgiveness, complete forgiveness.
Yep.
So it ended up that, and I'm rounding, right? $800,000 is what the city was going to be on the hook for a loan that would probably last for, it would probably be a 30-year loan, but it probably would only go 20 years because we would pay it off. But it would last the lifetime of the upgrades. And so that's kind of the way we're leaning right now. The only thing is, when we did get the bid, it came in at just under $5 million.
So we have only gotten one bid for this
One
from an
bid.
engineer. Are we going to outsource more bids for this?
We tried,
We
we exhausted avenues on that.
tried,
There's multiple companies out there that do this projects, multiple people.
we
They need to
contacted,
submit.
Apex is
dozen.
another company that does it?
we contacted at least a dozen, and one responded. One. We've talked to cities that had multiple bids asked, 0 responded. Nobody responded because they're either too busy or they cannot get the supplies, product, or whatever that is necessary.
Yeah, and you're gonna run into that with this
Right now,
environment.
especially, yeah.
Yeah, with this problem we got going on around.
That's the unfortunate part about this
Yep.
whole deal. It's very tenuous, but all we are talking about is applying for. And who knows, maybe they'll come back and they'll say, oh, the government makes money hand over fist, we'll give you $7 million. Build 2 of them, whatever.
You never know, but I think we're all on the same page here. We're all wondering how much money is the city gonna put out?
Exactly.
How much money are the residents gonna have to pay for something that they gotta keep paying for and keep
Yeah.
paying for? When there's other projects involved that need to get done also on the same page
Yeah.
with everything, you know? I mean, you don't know what the sewer lines are underneath the streets. I mean, they could collapse at any time and then we got
That's part
a
of the
big
project.
problem.
That's part of
the
this
project.
whole project.
So they're gonna
They'll all be
do
cambered.
all new, okay, so is that part of replacing the streets on top of this, on top of the pipes?
When they have to replace any infrastructure that's under the street, half of the street is paid for by the sewer project.
Okay,
Half would have to be paid for by a water project, but that's another situation.
That is part of the expense of this $4 million project, is to camera every line in town to determine the health of the line. And some of the lines may not require a replacement, but there's new technology out there that is kind of like a balloon treatment that,
yeah, they can send a balloon all the way
Lighting,
through there to get
yeah.
a whole 360 view of everything all the way down.
but no, it's a treatment that you pressurize the
Yep.
line and then that sticks to the line and it makes it stronger than it
Yep,
is.
yeah, it's an injection that
Fiberglass,
they do.
basically.
Yep, it's an injection
Sleeve,
they do,
yep.
yep. Basically, you're taking a pipe and you're injecting it and it expands out like a foam in there
Yep.
to basically create a new pipe inside the old pipe.
Which would obviously be quite a bit less expensive, and then we still could do road work on top. That would be less expensive too, because we wouldn't be digging a trench.
Yeah, you wouldn't be digging, you wouldn't be
18
digging
feet
20
deep.
feet down
Yeah, exactly.
and trying to fill everything back.
No. So that's the whole point. This motion is not to do this project. This motion is to go forward
Or
with
with
the
the grant.
application
Yep,
to.
yep.
Or will be if we get a motion. Any other comments? I don't wanna, I mean, I don't wanna be here all night, but at the same time, I don't wanna stop somebody from speaking if you'd like to say something, so. I guess if we don't have any other comments, we would need a motion. Wording would be to approve, yeah.
Approve the application for state assistance.
I motion to approve the application for state assistance.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve for the application of state assistance for this phase one wastewater treatment plant financing. Is there any discussion?
Okay, I'll include that as well.
If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. I think that was good discussion. I agree with, I mean, we, I think, all agree with virtually everything you mentioned. One thing about what we're doing here every single time we have a meeting is we're concerned about how much is going out and who's affected by that going out. Because just like you, I'm a taxpayer, and so are the rest of these people, and so.
Everybody wants to know where their money is going to
Exactly.
at all
Yeah,
times. I mean,
yeah.
especially in this environment we got now. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a tight one out there anymore.
I'll have to say, until I was on the council, I probably could have not cared less about water. But I got put on that committee to go down and go through the plant.
I think it would be a good thing for the city to set up a tour for the city of people in Alcester to go and actually see the problems that you got going on.
It's not a bad idea.
It'll be an eye opener, I think, for people,
Oh,
instead of
yeah,
everybody's just like,
it's a
everybody's
big
sitting
eye
here going, well, the city's just spending money, the city's spending money on a building we don't need, the city's spending money on this, the city's spending money. Let them open their eyes and go, wow, look at all this, you know, this could be a major problem that we got here, you guys. I mean, your sewer backs up, what's gonna happen? It's gonna go into your house. And then it's gonna fill your basement, it's gonna fill everything, you know? I mean,
My big thing was, I care about people, and I do not want to see a loss of life of a worker that works in what he was working.
No,
Because when I saw how far the water had come up in that house on a lower level.
There's
it's
electricity all around
He
there.
wasn't electrocuted because he had to be done. It did, it kind of makes you sick.
Yeah.
That needs to be fixed.
But I think that would be an eye opener to let people set up a tour date and.
It's not a bad idea. We can discuss that with Dale, and maybe we can set up some Friday
Yeah,
afternoon
'cause
or a
you'd be
Saturday or
shocked.
something. We'll see what we can do.
I mean, yeah, you can charge them $5 for a ticket to get in here. Like, there you go.
One thing I will say, I do appreciate the fact that you folks came here tonight for this public hearing. One of the things that I've had kind of a difficult time with is we have public hearings and, you know, 2 people are here. That is not a public hearing, that's just a couple of people that came because they're gonna be at the meeting, or we do need to be having hearings, and they need to be
Well, you'll be
attended.
seeing my face quite more often.
Okay.
My work is kind of slowing down a little bit for me, so.
Okay. Well, I don't know if that's good or bad, but.
Well, it's a
I mean,
good thing.
whichever.
It's a good thing.
Okay.
I usually work 70, 80 hours a week, and it's slowing down, so I'm happy with it.
Okay. Well, we were done with item number 6. We're gonna move back to Joy Hemmingson, and I know you've already discussed the
I gave you, I had to jump in the agri-hood a little
Yeah.
bit. I did.
Every vacation out of
Sorry about that. Can I go up here? Okay. Sorry, you guys can't see it. My name's Joy Hemmingson, and I claim I'm an Alcestrian. I'm not technically an Alcestrian because I have an Akron, Iowa address now. But we used to have an Alcester address, and we picked Alcester to raise our kids in, and it's such a wonderful community, and I'm happy to be a part of it, even though I call myself a forgotten South Dakotan. As I mentioned, I saw the agri-hood thing 10 years ago, and the community, just your guys' support of things that are good. There's a lot of good things, and I'm kind of an outsider, yet an insider. I worked for the county for a number of years, so I gained a lot of information there about potential that's going on. And when I look at Alcester and Highway 11 and these beautiful roads and this beautiful farmland, this beautiful countryside, this beautiful stretch that'll take you all the way to Sioux Falls, that within like a half an hour, it's just kooky. You guys have a lot of opportunity. So I just put a few thoughts together in a presentation, and it'll pull up, I'm sure, in a minute. There we go. And I just I'll go quickly. I respect your time here. But I put it in, and I can email it to you guys if you want to look at it a little bit more. It's called Alcester, Let's Get Growing. I focused on the small town treasure in my presentation because, if I can read it, the presentation aims to highlight the bounty of Alcester community already present and encourage some ideas for future planning of sustainability and growth for the fine community. It's the people, past, present, and future in Alcester that make it the treasure. So let's just remember that. I'm presenting, sorry, I can make that big, slideshow it, there we go. This little nugget, also from about 10 years ago, holding it in my notebook and thoughts. And it is a 1974 envelope from the State Bank of Alcester. And on the back, it has all of Alcester's activities from 1974. And it's so awesome. And it shows a few more activities than what we have today. So that got me going. But you're welcome to take a look at that history right there going on. Look at that. Look at the colors. Look at the highlights. What do they have going on? We got what?
Bowling.
Oh,
We got shooting.
Well, they're shooting at a pheasant, are they not?
We got
That's
camping.
happening every year.
We got bowling.
Our museum and the bowling.
There's motel. There's the home of the nationally known antique car museum, swimming, golf, and excellent pheasant hunting. that we have going on. So I just took that as a little inspiration. That's fun. And that was a nugget. I used to be your chief deputy treasurer at Union County. I've probably taken your tax money a time or two. Titled cars and vehicles and stuff like that. So I love things about the highway. I think this came out when the interstate came in, maybe, to try to get people back. It says just minutes off I-29. But, so that gets me thinking, all right, Alcester, you guys got a lot going on here. There's so much potential right now at this time. Things that I think about now that I have time to think about things, your event center, the main drag, I like to call it, because it's not quite Main Street, it's 2nd Street, but it's the main drag. The highway, which is huge right now. The old school, which I've spoken of. Green space, that focused a lot on your agri-hood. And lastly, the train, which I didn't even put in my presentation, don't even get me started on the train. So when we talk about the event center, and I don't know, that is city owned and operated, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So when I look at that and the potential, when you look at restaurants and things that are drawing people in, again, farm to table is big. If you can say, hey, this came from this meat producer, that's what we're serving, these greens came here, from here, and here, I think you'd, and I'm looking big, these are big ones. And I called it a supper club, because if you could have a supper club, and they used to be a big thing, supper clubs, where you had a night of entertainment, you had something tied in, people, you might be able to get in the game of, there's a lot of memberships these days, there's a lot of pay before you play type of things, where you might be able to budget a little easier and know because it is surrounded around a club and you're creating the events. Quarterly events I'm hoping the city really takes that into consideration. I did a lot of quarterly events in a previous life in a global BPI world of really helping people, but you think seasonal alone, you could come up with some great ways. People are gonna drive. They're already growing, you're growing. They're to Canton right now. They're looking for that little something that's a little different, makes them feel included. And your arts and skills portion, local businesses, artisans generating the foot traffic into their area. So I know there's a lot of arts and skills. I know we have like a master steam engine guy that does really cool stuff in the area. I know that we have a master blacksmith that lives in town that knows so many skills. I know that we have, our quilting shop that's now on Main Street and different things that we could highlight an event. Educational demonstrations. I think you guys should really consider an Alcester's Got Talent. I might pitch that to the new bar. Because there's so many people with talent around here that you could really highlight. Getting people weekly to come on out, maybe monthly and lead it up to a quarterly. You have a finale. I think you could pull, being a musician myself, I know there's a lot of musicians out there and talented people that know a lot of skills. The last thing that I have on the event center, it ties into one of my other things, is I won't give any personal private information out, but I license so many classic cars from people around here. I license people that have beautiful, they're like little treasures that they got hidden all around are these beautiful cars. And they love to get them out every once in a while, but could we feature that for the ones in our community? You tie that to a supper club, give them a reason to drive down a beautiful highway in their beautiful car to a beautiful event. I think that, you could start doing some revenue generating that way. Moving quickly to, does anyone have any questions on the event center? Okay, the main drag, I like to call it that because it also ties into the cars. We got Highway 11. I like to call it a slice of heaven on Highway 11 because you can actually tailor that. People coming all the way down from Riverside on Highway 12, they're there for the train, the historical train thing. Coming up, you got Stone State Park. You kick it on over from Akron. You get to see their beautiful little thing. They just finished their Scarecrow Festival. And then you hit it up Highway 11. And featuring some of the historic family farms that are still going on. And we're not talking agribusinesses, we're talking family farms. You pass quite a few of them, just from 48 up to Alcester. Highlight them. You could have, I just thought if every one of these people put their tractor on the edge of the road and lit it up, like you could have a parade of lit up tractors all the way to town. Anyway, I'll get off on those type of things. All right, so the main drag, as the community supports them, things to look at there, more media, social media, a monthly newsletter would be very helpful, even if it's hanging up at the grocery store so I can see it, or on social media, coordinating with those business owners, especially tied into the events, that we can support them highly. The highway is the best way to travel, and it's strategic to get these traveling groups, making Highway 11 the best way to get north. So where do I live? I used to live, they called it the old Harvey Place, if that makes sense to anybody. It's right, Pat Cast would be my closest neighbor, Johnson's were the only others on the section. So that's my Alcester raisin. We just recently, and you mentioned old historic places, purchased my husband's grandparents' farmhouse from his bachelor uncle who had lived there for like 40 years and preserved the house. So updating things that need updated, I understand, but preserving that history, he would talk about there used to be a farm there, there used to be a farm there, there used to be a farm there, there used to be another place over there. Those places are disappearing, and it's quite a responsibility, I think, for us in this heartland of to save that. So it's the best way to travel on your highway. You got excellent roads to get people. There's parks and rec, the whole way stretches up. You can get up to Good Earth up there. You go past the Norway Center. I'm sure they'd love to have a little extra traffic, but focusing on that area. And Alcester, I looked for a map that would highlight my Highway 11, and I could not find one online. The only place I found it was the 1974 envelope, where it clearly shows you guys are in prime territory, right here between the dunes and Sioux Falls, that are keep growing. We are not a poor county. We're not. There's a lot of money flowing down there that needs to come more up here because they're part of our farming community. And I think they would grasp onto it. Easy mapping. So I clicked in Travel South Dakota. They have these things called day trips that they feature on Travel South Dakota. Where's ours? What a great day trip to come on down. Highway 11, you know, take a cruise on your bike, take a cruise on your classic car. Just bring the family and come on down. That, I think, you can really market in a strategic way to highlight Alcester as a place to come and meet. Okay. I just put another picture of that highway on there. You guys want to see my classic envelope? There you go. All right. The agri-hood we talked about. I showed you the presentation from CBS Sunday Morning that I saw 10 years ago and thought, oh my gosh, how perfect. And I still have thought that, but the more I see how everything's growing towards you from the north and the south, and you have a new event center with a restaurant. You know, how can you make these things really stand out in a unique way that no one else can? Beersford's industrial, and I don't see that growth passing that. I really don't. They're getting big and fancy if you take Highway 11 all the way up Sioux Falls. I don't know if you have lately. It's the only way I'll go to Sioux Falls, because why would you go on the interstate if you can travel this road? And there's just a lot of growth and a lot of wealth. In that feature that was on the agribusiness, one thing to keep in mind, those people lived there, or agri-hood, I'm sorry, because they had high-speed internet. And they're work-from-home people. And you guys already have that in your infrastructure. That is Alliance Communications, that's the one I had, and it was unheard of for me to have high-speed internet all the way. I was the last one on the line. The next place south to me was considered Akron, and they weren't allowed to have it. So high-speed internet already here. What people are looking for is that little sanctuary. You guys really have location, location, location. And the farm to table with so many, I'm not saying you have to be the farm here, but if we could look at that model and take a look at me, myself, on my 7 acres, I have 18 hens, and my little garden that I'm so overwhelmed with my green peppers and tomatoes. I should have brought you all some, because I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I'm a city girl. I grew up with Barbies and didn't go outside, didn't have a tree. I'm a country convert, I call it. Huge opportunities that way to get this place involved too, the children involved in understanding and really knowing that it's really important to millennials and people looking for locations. So if they could live in a place with all that to offer within 30 minutes to your main city, either way, again, you guys are in a really good place. All right, 73% of Americans consider access to fresh, healthy food a top priority. There are more than 200 agri-hoods in 28 states. proximity to green space can increase your home value by 15 to 30%. Maybe we're not talking that 500,000 range, but it can still be kind of nice. So this is the little map that shows where they are. The blue states have agri-hoods. You'll notice that big cluster that ends right where we're at. So there is not one in South Dakota. These are just little agri-hoods, as you see the blue. But the north place is not scary. The cold weather places are not like, oh, we can't do that there. There's links and information that I put at the end of this, a lot of them to the agri-hood information, city planning for that, a big article from, actually was done in Canada, because they are big on their agri-hoods too. So if they're doing it in Canada, we can do it in South Dakota, right? But what about now? So that's those things. I gladly email this to you. And again, the links are on that one on my resource page for agri-hoods and also for additional resources. But what about now? One thing that came to mind for me, you guys, and I don't know if you're interested in making some money or if you want to incorporate it into your holiday event, which I'm sure you're having one, right? Awesome. Okay. What about a little ice skating rink? This town is Norman Rockwell to me. You look down Main Street when I first did and looked down Main Street and that flag was in the middle of town. It was so beautiful in this little town. It is very Norman Rockwell here. We're so blessed. We have so many blessings. What about a little ice skating rink? If there's a flat spot, I grew up in Sioux City across from Hubbard Park, which was a softball field. And every year they took the right field on down and they made it a little skating rink. They just flooded it.
They need something for the kids around
They just
here.
flooded it.
They had a ice skating rink back behind the car museum. It was a ball field.
They couldn't
keep the ice. They couldn't keep the ice on it.
Well, even if it's for just your feature event, you know, even if it is just to highlight that event. We got water. I know your water treatment's very important, but a little water could make a little ice festivity, and there's that. She just mentioned she got there's a link to get licensed to movies, because this could be a huge draw for an event for you guys. Where I live 3 miles west of Akron, 1 mile from the turn on Highway 11. So it's kind of there. I face a dirt road, not the highway. It's 5 miles of dirt road from my place up to Big Springs, okay? So I see a lot of these UTVs, ATVs, the all-terrain vehicles, plus I licensed them. So many Rangers, Razors, Raptors, so many. If you had a drive-in event, like a movie event for them, do you know how many would get out there and drive on over here? You go buy some Jolly Time bags of popcorn, those big ones, serve that for $1 or $2. They have a link, they have an app where you can sync the movie to the radio. So I have a link for that in there. I'm technically challenged, so I don't know about that. And also the link for licensing. But it sounds like your rock star librarian lady just hooked you up with a movie. It's essentially rights to replay that movie. So I think that'd be a really good one. It'd be cool. Yeah. All right. So, and then lastly, I don't know, do you guys own that building that's down south there, that big one, at one time was a packing plant, am I correct?
No, it's privately owned.
Oh, it's privately owned. Alcota owns that, okay. The other question I have is then I heard that the steakhouse corner is now a city property?
No, it's not city, it's
County.
County.
Union County bought it.
So they bought that for the fair?
Mhm.
Okay. So
That was their intent,
your
we'll put it that
gain,
way.
city-wise, nothing, right? I mean, you don't really have the fairgrounds closer to town, and you don't have any part of that either. Am I
Well,
correct?
the city owns a considerable amount of the property that the fairgrounds is existing on.
Right.
The buildings all are owned by the county.
Uh-huh.
And there's a small portion of the dirt that's owned by the county as well.
Okay, so city.
We got that
City
beautiful
still
high
has.
school. You can put a projector on the side of it.
Oh, that's
Kids
for the
can-
movies. I'm
Kids-
moving on. This is my next one. I already got another one. You guys can take it and leave it. Again, I don't live in Alcester.
Pumpkin
So,
maze.
I just love you all very much. So, the other thing to consider, I thought perhaps I heard that perhaps you got the steakhouse. area. So that's county. But if there's a place for archery, or like on the envelope, the target shooting, even your little axe hatchet toss could be incorporated into it. It's something to look at for revolving income. Archery would really highlight the kids. I mean, now you can go to Yankton, that's kind of far, but it takes a lot less investment for an archery area, right? I mean, you just got some deals. So that's cool. But target shooting, maybe a little bit more, but I know that a lot of the high schools have started shooting clubs, and they're also looking at adding it to, oh, that was my mom telling me, they're adding the axe toss to the Olympics potentially. So, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So those are some things that you could maybe do, maybe for activity. I know giving kids axes is not really ideal for me, but I told my mom I put it in.
Well, if you're gonna give them a bow and an arrow.
A bow and arrow, that's right. But I like that one because A, it's quiet, right? And it's kind of there.
Silent but
Yeah,
deadly.
yeah. I thought if you own that building out south, I'm like, that's perfectly long and be awesome for a shooting range. Which a shooting range you would get.
The building you're.
Sorry,
The
where am
meatpacking
I
is
at?
north.
That's north.
Yeah.
North, and I
Yeah.
called it south, didn't
Yeah.
I? Yeah. I have a little brain damage, which is why I have a lot of time to think anymore.
East
I
into
gotta-
the setting sun.
Got kind of a disease that makes things go around and around in my head. I get mixed up easy, so I thank you for that. So a little flooded water could bring a lot of fun. The UTV drive-in could bring some income. I just imagine that partnered with a fall festivity, like if we had pumpkins and we had the drive-in and, you know, again, I fall back to a club mentality only because of revolving income. And if you could say to someone, hey, for this amount, this is what you get. And you know you're going to plan these events anyway. Why not see what you can get, right? Okay. Living History Museum. This is another topic. The Living History Museum, this is the only exclamation point in my presentation because it's time sensitive. Exclamation point. Alcester is the beginning and an end of an era. It's a responsibility to preserve the history of farming right now. Right now. Because again, those farmhouses are disappearing. If we would not have bought this house, it's only 7 acres now, we don't have the farmland. When I told Tom, I'm going to sell my acreage, I'm going to buy this one, because keep it in the family. Those things are important to me. Again, not from here, but I feel those roots. Everyone has those farming roots, and sometimes they're changing awful quickly. The next day, the manager, because that land is owned by someone in Iowa, an agribusiness from Iowa, their manager came and knocked on the door to buy the place. So they could bulldoze it so they don't have to farm in a horseshoe. They could go in a straight line then. So, I mean, I gotta save it. Had to save it, and I'm proud that I did. It's gonna be a lot of work, but we have a lot of other farming things. So, my house alone, it's like a picker's deal. I could set you up with a farming history museum tomorrow. Tomorrow, if you want the artifacts and that. But what I think would be a really moving thing, we just recently went to a museum up by Fargo, North Dakota, and it was for a Viking ship thing. But the coolest thing about that, the Viking ship was cool, but the video, the actual interviews of the people from the 1980s that built this reconstructed thing. So what if we did coordinate with our care centers and our oldest treasures to offer a video capture of their farming memories? How easy is it to set up a light ring and a phone and just say, hey, tell a story about this? And if you could collect those stories and have them streaming in your little tiny farming museum, you're on the map. And now you're on the map for museums on a major highway. You're going to be in all of those marketing places where I got a pamphlet for some kind of little different stops of thrift stores or museums in Alcester. You're not even listed. You're not. It just goes right on by you down to the railroad. So it's a really good way that might take little investment with the support of the community if they want to. You can also coordinate with the Union County Historical Society out at Elk Point. They have barns full of stuff, but again, I could help you out. But how cool is it to find a seed sorter, right? Like, how cool is it to try to, what is this? Who's gonna have it documented? I really think it's our responsibility. I don't know why, I just do. And then the arts, again, coordinate with the community, different arts of farming, things like canning, things like crocheting that they're teaching little kids to do in this library right here, things that they did, just to hear those stories of what they did and how hard it was, I think would show a great deal of respect for the people of our community and the multi-generational farms that we have to highlight. Last thing I have for y'all is shiny shows is what I call it, all right? Shiny shows. People like shiny things. I like shiny things. Tractors. Tractors are shiny. We have a plethora of tractors available in our area. Classic cars. Again, a lot of classic cars. And if we can tie, this one's a key one, especially when I think of funding or investment opportunities from my resources that I know a little more south. There's a huge classic car guy that could potentially help us very much set up something. That if you feature that, it'd be cool. What if you featured the person that owned it? What if you nominated someone for a car calendar from Alcester? What? I mean, there's just a lot of building that you can do and get those people around. So you got parades, you got showmanship contests and calendars that could shake the dust off. How cool would it be to see, you know, yourself featured next to your cool tractor in the tractor calendar? Little investment, high returns. These are the links to just some of the resources that were used that I'll email to you for your free time.
Yeah, if you send that.
Your free times.
If you send that PowerPoint to Pat, she can forward it on to all of us, if
That'd
you
be
would.
wonderful. Take a look at them. The Agri-Hood ones, there's everything from just Middlebrook Farm, which is the one that's in Iowa. So I put that one in there so you can see someone closer to our climate in that type of situation. It's a little smaller scale as well. The Growing America. Some of these are literally how-to. Cities doing all the research on it, looking at it. It's a lot, but it's there for you. Tourism resources, Travel South Dakota. You go on there and they got those day trips, they got those highlighted areas of interest. Of course, they're all focused west. Let's bring it back just a little bit. Thank you, Pat.
That place in Fargo, wasn't that the Hemcomp Center or something like that?
It was, and it was amazing to see
Yeah.
how this one man rebuilt a whole Viking ship from scratch.
And there's
I'm talking, he chopped the wood and made the planks.
Scandinavian temple there.
It is an
Yeah.
exact model of, it was actually the first pagan to Christian church. So they did the exact carving and artwork around it that kind of shows like these, it's not very pretty. It's kind of not pretty to look at. And they said, it translates, your religion's dead, this is it now. So it's not very loving, but anyway, it was worth seeing. My son is going to graduate with history as his major, so we like that kind of stuff. But the other couple links were to link in case you wanted the movie theater information on how to get a license so you can show a movie on a projector and make money from it. In closing, all right, building a future is a challenge, but what are the alternatives? More discussion, of course, is needed around any of this. I'm happy to offer my input. Areas of interest, community support, and investment resources and grants. Super excited that she is fluent in grant writing for you guys. That is an asset that is pretty much priceless. There's a lot of money out there right now to help step up communities. You know, I know it looks like they're handing it out, but if we can position it right, you guys are a prime resource to get some really strong attention in your area. But you could look at, instead of the farm being here, us little people all around you. People are buying little acreages. You know, if you have an acre of land, you can feed yourself for a year. According to Mother Earth News magazine. I've read it a time or two. I'm new. I'm new in the dirt. So that is just some things that I think would really help to look at.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. But you know, I got transplanted here, you guys, and it turns out I'm totally from here, so I care a lot. It turns out my great great-grandfather's buried at Rosini. And my great-grandma was at the Alcester Care Center. I remember visiting her once when I was 8, and she loved it there so much. And so yeah, it turned out we moved here, transplant, and found out that we're all from here anyway. So I'll send the email to you, Pat, and you guys, if you have any other questions, thanks for letting me get it off my chest.
Thank you.
So that I don't have to think about it too much longer.
All right.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
well, we'll move on to item number 7, public input.
I am, but I'm not the only
I
one.
have some. I will give this to Pat. The rest of you have a copy of it. It's a freedom of information. Let me get out of the camera, sorry. I want to touch base, at the community center. I noticed the fire department was up there again. And evidently problem with whatever. And that's, as I understand it, Mr. Cast had spoken to it a couple of times that they were being called up there on a regular basis. We either need to get the warranties fixed or do something more. If it's cleaning and they're not getting the filters cleaned, maybe somebody needs to lose their job. What's the progress on the direct deposit for the employees?
Most of the employees are against it.
Oh, really? Okay. I want to touch base on
They're against it?
Yeah.
Really?
those that I talked to.
I was
Wasn't.
gonna say everybody I've talked to, they're
Yeah.
really want the direct
You
deposit
know-
because they don't like the paper checks and happen to go either up to the Alcester bank to cash their check and then deposit it in their bank account or vice versa. But everybody I have talked to has said that they really want the direct deposit.
And you don't have to wait for the mayor to sign the checks. So, going on that, conversation took place on the culvert of South in Iowa. We bought our property in 1986. That culvert's been there since then. I spoke to Raymond Rogau, who also carries the name of my grandmother, or my great-grandmother. But they put those in, and I think, if I remember correctly, at a price of about $50,000 to $60,000 each. Since that time, since we've been here, we've had at least two trucks that I've witnessed go in that creek, and that is a creek. It's active water, and it's subject to DANR. They dumped cattle in at one time and grain in it the next time. And when that plugs up, it comes back and it floods. That creek is fed by Lee Drive also. All the water that comes off Lee Drive goes down and across, because I've walked that course, and it drops into that creek. So you want some history on that? My advice is take the culverts out, shut the road down. South Street goes out to Rhodes, and Iowa stops. And that way you have a straight shot for the water to run, and we don't have semis going every minute and a half down the road raising dust. That's a selfish thing on my part. We manufacture canoe paddles and oars. But we have machines, we melt plastic in the machines. And when you've got that dust settling on top of the plastic, it corrupts it. One thing I didn't bring up when the librarian was here, but the whole issue of book bans. I grew up in a Carnegie library. In 3rd grade, my teacher took us to the library. We walked, they had a children's section, and it was about a month before another girl and I were allowed to go upstairs into the big people's library and go. And I still remember sitting on the leather chairs and the statuary and stuff. So I fell in love with the Carnegie Library. I'm not in favor of book bans. Then there's a big thing going out there now where people are getting in and they're saying, well, you can't read this book, you can't read this book, you can't read that book. We're not going to allow them in the library. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. The last thing is garbage in the park. I happened to be sitting in the park, about a month or so ago, and I watched a clown drive up in a red car, and he proceeded to pull out 7 or 8 full garbage bags and dump it into that little round blue container. I was offended, and I walked over and I asked him, don't you have your own garbage? And he didn't really give me a direct answer, and I said, well, I and the other people in town have to pay for this and stuff. And he says, well, the city gave me permission. I said, who gave you permission? He didn't answer me. And I gave him a couple places to unload his garbage. We won't go into where I told him. But numerous bags of garbage was left in the park. Now, we got to do one of a couple things. There's folks that have garbage. We can either do a roll-off where if you don't want to buy and set out the blue lighthouse every Tuesday morning and leave it set up for most of the week, that you can just take your own garbage down, put it in the roll-off. Now, we can put the roll-off behind, we could put it out at the dump ground or whatever, and just have somebody sit out there and watch it, because I know that, yes, there are people that come from the country and dump garbage. What's the difference whether they dump it in the park or dump it in the landfill? But like I said, this guy and I had worked.
That's a pretty big another expense there, though, to put a
Yeah,
roll-off
we need
dumpster,
two or
have
three
somebody
hours.
watch it. You're talking
Well, we
hours.
already have somebody that watches and it's a green waste.
And I agree.
It's a green
I
waste.
completely agree with you. I think we should cut the person that sits out there and watches it, and I think the dump out there should be open 24/7, and there should be a camera. And if you get caught doing something wrong, they review the camera, just like Elk Point, just like all the other towns around, besides Beersford, but Elk Point's dump, wide open, 24/7. They have a problem, they look on the camera, they go back, see the license plate, bam, that person gets a big ticket.
We are
You're cutting
obligated.
expenses all the way around the whole situation.
We are obligated by the Fed, though, on some of that certain things aren't allowed to be dumped out there. So that is. one of
They
the
are
things.
too.
That
They
was
are
the-
too. They're
yeah.
only allowed in Oak Point to dump
Yeah.
what we dump out there, but
So,
they
but
have a camera. that
I just
records.
wanted to bring this to your attention because I took a trip and I looked in both containers. And the one was full up and the other one was getting there. And I didn't make a friend that day. Aw. But and anybody that knows me, your son can tell you I had him in class when I was a substitute teacher.
Well,
But-
it would take an officer of the law to enforce this, and that's an expense we cannot afford, another officer of the law. So, I
But
don't know
well,
how
either that or pull the cans out of the park.
we can do that, and then they'll just throw stuff on the ground.
Well, then you get them for littering. Or put me in the park and I'll sit for a while.
Take a picture of their license plate.
But I wanted to bring that to your attention. One thing with your presentation, many years ago, more than several, but many years ago, my husband and I had approached the city. We have this nice big hill, Highway 11. What about soapbox derbies? We'd approach the soapbox derby people to move a race and allow Alcester to have a race. And we could bring in all those people, they'd build their own soapbox, and we'd race them down that hill. We'd have to shut that off for just a little bit or redirect it.
We are spoiled with the hills.
Yes.
I need to tell you that I brought someone up here that was in Vermillion their whole life, and they're like, where am I? Where am I? Because all she ever did is take the flats, Elk Point, Burbank Road, Sioux City. She didn't even know we had hills.
But it was an idea. This is a major, we'd have to redirect for a day, but it's possible. But think about the kids. Building the carts, the parents, we have a park. We could have vendors come in and sell that day or whatever. There's an opportunity.
Little things.
Yeah.
Little investment, high
Yeah.
return.
Little go-karts. They go down that hill. Boom. Thank you.
Is there any other public input? If not, we're going to move on to the 505 Hofstad Street property.
The house came down today. If you drive by it now, you'll see there's a very large hole.
Yeah.
And
It's gone.
tomorrow afternoon, it'll be filled in. And the 2 trees in the front are gone. And the tree in the backyard will be gone tomorrow. The house needs to be gone first.
Garage is gonna go then? too?
Already gone.
Oh, it's already gone.
Yep.
I haven't driven over there.
It's a gone. I've heard the trucks all day.
That's encouraging.
So,
There's more to come on that property from the HRC as well, so I don't know when that'll happen. Unfortunately, a lot of things are way out there, like 2 and 3 years out there. It's ridiculous, but
I was hoping we could save one of the trees on the property, so when we made the motion to go ahead and approve demoing that property, but the tree was too close to the street, and it would have hindered any build or anything like that, so, I'm not saying it's going to cost the full $1,500 to remove that tree, but I just would like a motion to approve spending up to $1,500 for the third tree removal.
everybody knows which one she's talking about, right out next to Ofsted. It's
It's a
right,
great big one.
yeah, it's a large tree.
I'll make a motion to approve spending up to $1,500 to remove the third tree.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve spending up to $1,500 for the removal of that third tree on the 505 Ofsted Street property. Any discussion?
I drove by it and it's a pretty tree, but I
Oh.
don't know, it's really gonna be in the way if they would do
Actually,
something.
all the trees were quite nice, but, I mean, and
Favorite thing
it's,
walking around the property.
yeah, it's a sad thing to get rid of a tree, but if somebody's gonna develop that, they're gonna need them out of there anyway, so.
There are a whole bunch of little trees in a cluster in the back of the lot, and we're keeping those. They would be much easier for anybody developing, or after the house is actually seated, they could decide if they want to keep any of them. So,
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? 3 yes. Oops, 3. 1. Motion has passed. We don't have Sam Nelson here for a legal update.
and he did call me this afternoon to relay that he is working on the storm sewer. He's contacting Bill Boyer to get the history on that property.
This.
Yes.
And that is actually the next, well, assuming that's the only legal update that we've got from Sam, that's actually the next item for discussion. And the only update we've got is that he's working on it. I believe, Cindy, you mentioned that you had gone out there and you looked at it, and you drive a pretty good-sized vehicle into that north pole.
And this one right here, when I went
The very far
The very
south
bottom one?
Yeah.
that one is just almost as, actually, this is just wider, the top one is wider, but this one on that bottom, it was starting to take up more, because it was like started, and then you could see it was starting again.
Personally, I drove down there too, but I feel those two bottom ones are not our responsibility particularly.
I'm
Because
in agreement.
that's county, that's all in the county. And maybe this one up here we'll have to look at, but, and I do believe personally that it's all the truck traffic. It's going right over it.
If I make one comment, there are children that play in those culverts, both the one under the bridge and the one under those two. I've seen bicycles and I've seen kids in those culverts, so just so you guys know, even though it may not be
So the
the
culverts
cities.
are down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is on that curve.
They go underneath that road.
We're talking about the storm sewer drains, not the culvert.
Yeah, but that, there is problems in that culvert that
That's
may
further
arise
south,
out of those.
So, the only thing we know is,
So these are county then?
Yeah, they're not city.
And the other one's in railroad.
Yeah, there's
So
that
it's
one.
not
That's
city
the only
either.
one that's, yeah.
If that's, then why would you?
well, there's,
Oh, because it's
It's
our
our water.
there's
It's
a
our
problem with the
water.
one at the railroad because I mean, really technically speaking, we've got the right to have it there, and it's really our responsibility, not the railroad's responsibility. Now, that being said, that other property is actually owned by the county. That's why I said that about the fairgrounds. Some of the fairgrounds owned by the county, some of it's owned by the cities, you know.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we don't know any more than that right now. How about chairperson updates? Be Lucas for streets. Anything to update? Okay. Cemetery would be Darla. No, yes, Cindy. I'm sorry. I looked at the wrong numbers there.
Everybody's quiet.
Yeah.
Looks great. I did ask about, just so everybody knows, I did ask about the, is it Jurgensen? The Jurgensen plot that was done wrong. We are still waiting.
Oh, the headstone.
Yes, for
Yeah.
the headstone to be
Okay.
moved. But Pat is calling and checking, and she did request that we get put up, and they said they were gonna try to get us done soon.
I hear that a lot from a lot of people. We can go back to water, and Lucas, I don't know if you've got anything in the water department. Wastewater would be Kyle. Lots of stuff happening, but
Yep. Lots of stuff happening, waiting on more stuff.
Oh, cute.
Taking
a picture of you in action.
that's pretty cool. Well, we heard quite a bit about the library, but Kyle, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to add?
She told me a lot more than I had.
Okay. Golf course, community center, that would be Darla.
Well, we're working on it. We're working on staffing the community center.
Okay.
That's, I guess, well,
Adding staff, is that what you're thinking?
possibly, yeah.
Okay. Park and pool, Darla, again.
I haven't seen anything there. I've walked through it. I don't see any changes anywhere.
Yeah.
Pool's empty.
I was kind of shocked when I looked at that liner in the pool, how, I mean, it's just wrinkled around some of those.
I think there's gonna be issues.
Yeah.
Fire alarm sensor.
Let's see, police, that would be public safety, Cindy Peoples.
I do
Make
know
sure
that,
everything's
there was on Hello News, there was a thing that they had, and, Grayson was part of one of them, and Austin was part of the other.
That was
So-
helping out Beersford, I think, is what the. Good, they're good officers, they really are. We need to,
Yeah. And they love the community.
need to help them any way we can. Let's see, finance office, that would also be Cindy. We're gonna talk
We're
about
gonna be
this.
talking about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Pat, is there anything else new? No?
And Darla, what do you hear about the liquor store?
Well, I didn't even know it was open until I drove by on Sunday. I didn't think it was gonna be till October.
There was more people in there on Saturday than I've ever seen.
I'm serious.
It
that-
was
It was just
crazy.
unreal. There were a lot of
It was
Good
bikes.
opening day for them, I think.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was.
Because do they open because of this?
I think so.
They tried to, they actually, that morning, they got the licenses.
Oh,
They just got the license that Saturday morning, and so they did that because they knew that the poker room was gonna come through.
Okay, well, then we're gonna move on to item 13, and that is a personnel issue and/or motions for the community center.
When Darnell was first hired, which was, let's see, he took the summer off, so he was hired late spring. He was hired under the premise that he would be in the kitchen, and that was not his cup of tea. So he is now a server, and so his wage needs to be adjusted to be the server wage.
Any discussion before we talk about a motion? If not, I would need a motion.
Motion to update wage for Darnell Verniche to $7 server wages.
Motion's been made and seconded to update the wage for Darnell Vermish to $7 server wages. Any discussion? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. There's a section here that says motion to hire.
I have talked with Andrew Turley, who has a history, a cook history, and he is willing to help us out a little bit, part-time, at $13 an hour, because he also works at Burt's, and so it would be occasional, but at $13 an hour to help us as when he can, because he also has a full-time job.
And that would be in the kitchen.
In the kitchen, yeah, cook,
Part-time.
extremely part-time right
Councilwoman Rebby, could you repeat the name of that individual? You were awful
now.
soft-spoken.
Andrew Turley,
Oh, okay, Thank you.
as just a part-time temporary.
okay.
Part-time.
Yeah, part-time, yeah, because he's busy. He would,
Will that solve your case? Will that help you guys out if he came along and worked part-time?
Well, anybody will help, but
yeah. Still a work in progress.
In that event staffing, that you have your event center, just curious as to, so you have an event coordinator that runs the whole thing, and then they go down from there, correct? Okay. I'm just wondering, because my cousin Chuck and his lovely wife, they just moved back here from Florida, back here, means back to Sioux City. And he was a caterer and had his own business. He's a master chef. And she is bar and beverage manager deal. That's their life, and it's been that way in Florida. However, Florida's gotten so bad with the rent increases, and you either have 2 houses or 2 jobs, and you still can't make it, essentially. So they moved back, and I just keep telling them, because I have such a vision, you know, I'm like, imagine, you know, a written menu that you're coming down for this deal. And he asked me, he said, Miss, can you do 50 tickets a night in your restaurant?
Are you asking that of us?
I don't know. I said, yes. That's what I said, but I'm a positive person.
well, okay, that discussion is okay, but we have a motion on the floor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so the motion is to hire Andrew Turweave at $13 an hour as cook, part-time position. And I believe you made that motion, isn't that correct,
Yes, I
Darla?
did.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Just as I just stated, is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Well, that will help. Now we get to talk about this book, but this is the second time we will have, excuse me, discussed it.
Well, and actually, I just had you bring the book along in case there was any topic of discussion that you wanted to readdress, but the appropriation ordinance is put together now based off the numbers from that book. So this would be the approval for the second reading on that.
This is the appropriation ordinance she's referring to. It's in the packet. I got through about the first 3-4 pages 2 or 3 nights in a row and woke up realizing that, no, I'm just kidding, it wasn't like that,
That kind of is.
but I'm kidding. We would need, if there is no other discussion, a motion to approve the second reading of the City of Alcester 2023 appropriation ordinance.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of the City of Alcester 2023 appropriation ordinance.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded as written in 14B. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll move on to finance office updates.
One of the things I sent it out to you is, on September 12th, the fire department went around to all of our fire hydrants and did an inspection on them, make sure that they were functional, that they turned open and closed and drained, didn't have any leaks. I did send you the report. The report only deals with the ones that did not pass. So I will meet
Yes,
with
I
Lonnie
did.
and Dale, and we'll figure out a game plan for these that did not pass. Some might require more work than others. Some were not a surprise. The one that's on Iowa and Second Street, Lonnie has been wanting to replace that one for a while. We have known that that one is not up to code. I'm not sure this one behind the school, we're gonna have to do a little research on that one, because that's one that, I know we put a new one in when they put the football field in, and we put it on the other side of the street. I'm not sure the status of this one, so that one may not be such an issue that it
What's
is
the cost of like roughly a fire?
$5,000 for a brand new
$5,000.
one.
That's just for the unit.
So, and if you can get by with just replacing some of the innards, that works too, but a brand new hydrant is 5,000, so. So, anyway, I just wanted you guys to know, I've been working with Pat and we're trying to come up with better record keeping on our hydrants as they are, inspected, so.
That's a good idea.
Are they doing pretty much the whole town?
Yep, they do the whole time.
Pat kind of talked to me about that same thing. Pat Cast talked to me about it, and he said he kind of believes there's at least 5 of them that should be completely replaced. They just flat, they don't open at all, and
That's a dangerous situation.
and so he says, you know, out of all these, every paper here, every hydrant needs work, and that reflects on taxpayers, because our insurance is up for everybody, and our insurance on the fire side of it could go down if we had all these in very good operational condition.
Right. Excuse me just a moment, I'll let him in. Sorry, I just noticed you was standing there. So in essence, I mean, you're like
I know.
5 times 5, $25,000 for the fire hydrants, possibly up to that. Who knows? Maybe some components can just be replaced, but everything costs a lot of money, especially when it's getting umpteen years old. Yeah. How about the flushing? One of the things that I think, you know, that record keeping would be a good thing to be kept on flushing, and I mean, it should be like an organized cycle of twice a year. I don't care what dates, I mean, they could figure that out, but probably better to do it when it's not freezing.
Pat Cast, he did mention that we should, flush them quite a bit more, maybe 2-3 times a year. That would just kind of keep them in operational condition.
Right.
And then we kind of keep a track on if something does go down on it, it can be fixed right away.
And fixing, like we say, I mean, fixing an individual component is a lot less expensive, so
Maybe we
staying
could
ahead
do
of
it like every season, or 3 times.
Spring and fall time seems like a good time to do it.
Yeah, when it's thawing. But the fire chief will have a really good idea. Correct. So. Is that all there is on letter B? Was there any other flushing information that anybody had?
On the fire hydrant flushing there, I bring this up to Pat almost every year. She hears about me. My fire hydrant in my yard, I live on 209 West 5th Street there, and it's quite a ways into my yard. Every time they open that thing, I gotta replant grass and put dirt back down in there because it creates a massive hole. Can't they just hook a hose up to it and run it to the street so I don't have to do this constantly? I call, you can ask her, every time they do it, I call Pat, take pictures. They did it again, Pat, I mean.
Public safety should maybe talk with Chief Cass. A small hose, attach it, run it out to the street, bingo.
I mean, you're gonna flush the gutters out, I mean, your street out anyways to make sure there's no leaves there too at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
I hate grabbing more dirt and filling it in and planting grass seed and everything.
Well, it might be a good idea to have him look at other places that are in the same boat, so. The whole object of the game is to get a better handle on the flushing, so. Excellent. All right, we'll move on to October meeting dates.
So I have a conflict with our meeting on October 3rd. My family has Thanksgiving early, and that's the weekend that we will do it. And October does have 5 Mondays, and so I would like to request that we move the meeting to the 10th. And then in talking with the mayor about that, he suggested maybe we do the 10th and 24th, which would be 2nd and 4th, because there are 5 Mondays in October.
Which then would give us 2 weeks for the next one in November. So, I mean, it still would be 2 weeks apart, so. But we would need a motion to move that October 3rd meeting to October 10th. At the same time.
I'll make a motion to change the October city council meetings from October 3rd to October 10th, and then the second one on October 24th.
I'll second that.
October 10th. 24th. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the moving of October 3rd council meeting to October 10th, and the October 17th meeting to October 24th. Any discussion? At 6 p.m. on Dakota Street. Hearing no discussion is, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Well, still have 2 fiscal year, full year reviews. And when are they actually due, or
I think you already do.
overdue?
We've had, yeah, because we've had issues every time we started to do it. We just need to sit down with that.
And How about Dale? I mean, anybody,
I don't know,
I think both of us had a July anniversary date.
July?
so I don't know if
So
it
it's
goes
Dale
down.
With this
Wastewater.
wastewater.
It used to be Linda.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle's the chair of wastewater, but Kyle, Darla, and Lucas are on wastewater. Keep in mind that only 2 of you can meet with him. With anybody. And then reminders and updates. The homecoming for AHHS is September 23rd. And the National Philanthropic Day, which means that Alcester is going to receive an award, is in Pier, September 27th, and everybody will depart at 7 a.m., or that's the plan.
They got a bus.
Oh, that's
Around
nice.
us to ride together.
And right now, it's you and Lucas? Anybody else, or not?
As far as I know, unless you would rather go in my place.
I would love to, but I'm not going to be able to. I believe I will be employed, so. Fall cleanup, the roll-offs that were mentioned, they're actually going to be at the site across, well, right next to the city police department, September 30th through October 10th. And then there is item 16.
I will make a motion to go into the executive session for SDCL 125-2-1 personnel.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to move into executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2, parent 1. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're in executive session at 8:02 PM. 8:02 PM.
Yeah, the members of the gallery.
Okay, I'm going to call us out of executive session at 8:48 PM. And you can see there's a spot there for a motion.
I will make a motion to hire Landon and, Landon Nygaard and Kelsey Erickson as co-managers or co-GM managers of the community center, effective immediately until January 6th meeting, in which we will review how they like the situation and how it is working for the community center. Landon will be receiving $19.75 an hour, and Kelsey will be receiving $15.63 an hour as of now.
I'll second that.
Till January.
I believe it was 6th. I think that was our first, I think that's our first council meeting.
Oh, come on. January 2nd is
January 2nd would be?
a Monday, but
Well,
wouldn't that be
haven't
the
thought-
holiday?
That'll be a holiday, yeah.
So then,
It
would
could
we
be
do
the
it
third.
Tuesday the 3rd?
Mhm.
Tuesday, January 3rd.
I think that's what I even said was January 3rd earlier, but Okay. I'm gonna try to read this back. Motion to hire Landon Nygaard and Kelsey Erickson as co-managers at the community center effective immediately until January 3rd, when it would be revisited. Landon's rate will be $19.75 an hour, and Kelsey's will be $15.63 an hour.
Yep.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good. That helps too.
All right, go manage and do manager things.
Right. I know.
Good.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you. We only have one other item on the agenda.
Since the favorites.
The motion to adjourn. Okay, thanks, Carla.
Man, you couldn't get that fast enough.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn the council. Is there any discussion?
Who seconded it, please?
Cindy,
I did.
Oh, okay, thank you.
is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 8:52 PM.
Hey, we beat 9 o'clock.
Better than last time.
Yeah.